So good morning, church family. It's good to be here with you this morning, and it's especially good to be in this nice air-conditioned room. I don't know about you all, but I feel like we are really earning our fall season this year because it's been hot. And I think that it adds to the mix that this week, after weeks of being injured, I found out that I have a sprained ankle. And so you wrap something around your ankle when it's 95 degrees out, and it just makes everything hotter. So I am happy that it is nice and cold in here, and I get to spend my morning with you. So I wanted to say a special welcome to any of you who are new or this is your first time with us this morning. Thank you so much for spending your Sunday morning with us. If you don't know me, my name is Bonnie, and I'm the Minister of Discipleship here at Troy UMC. And I just have to second what the video that Rick shared said. Journey groups is where it's at. Journey groups and bands and being in Christian community. If you haven't tried it in a while or you haven't tried it before, I'm your gal. I would love to just let you have the opportunity to try one out. This is not a marriage lifetime commitment. This is an opportunity to try it, see what you like, try another one, see what you like, and find what fits, because Christian community is where we grow deep in our relationship with Christ. So high five to Rick for sharing that video, and please reach out to me if you'd like to get connected. Let us go ahead and start this morning in prayer as we prepare for the sermon. Loving Father, I just come to you this morning and I thank you. I thank you for the opportunity to share your word. And I pray that your spirit would move through me to open the minds and spirits and hearts of each of us in this place. Let only your voice be heard. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. So growing up, I remember running up to my dad and asking him all the questions. Many of you know that I am a why child, and my 5-year-old son is a why child as well, and I love it. I love that he's inquisitive. I love that he enjoys learning. But sometimes I would go to my dad with questions that weren't why questions, and they'd sound something like this. Can I have some candy? Can I sleep for 5 more minutes? Can I watch some more TV? Can I have $5? Can I stay up a little bit longer? Can I have a new bike? Can I go over to my friend's house? Can I ask you another question? Can I? And to this day, his reply has always been the same. I don't know. Are you able? First, thank you, Pastor Andy. First of all, you would think that eventually I would have learned to say, may I? Because one, that's what he was trying to get at. But secondly, for those of you who don't know me as well, I probably should have mentioned that my last name is Abel. I don't know, are you able? It's a phrase in my family that everybody uses. And it came to mind when Pastor Andy asked, which Hall of Faith individual do you want to preach on for this series? Yes, that's right. I actually picked to be the one who preached about Abel. I thought to myself, yes, I would like to be the one who starts out this sermon series by talking about the first person on record to ever be murdered, and not just murdered, but by their brother. That sounds great. Everybody's gonna love it. No, but seriously, there's so much more to the short snapshot of the life of Abel than how he died. Today, we are going to find out why he is named as one of the Hall of Faithers. And while we explore Abel's life, we're going to keep that simple question in our minds. Are you able? So today our field trip begins. Pastor Andy invited us last week on this journey, and today we have all showed up. Our tickets are in hand, and we are ready to enter into the Hall of Faith. We've been introduced to the idea of faith that examines last week and read together in Hebrews 11:1. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. That is what the ancients were commended for. We have learned that faith is steadfast in the face of persecution, that faith is active, not passive, and that faith is forward-looking. And we set a goal for ourselves to borrow faith. We want to borrow the faith of the spiritual giants of the Bible so that we can hold fast and not drift away. So that brings us to our text today, where in Hebrews chapter 11:4, we read, "By faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. By faith, he was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offering. And by faith, Abel still speaks, even though he is dead." Abel gets 3 by faith statements in one little verse. And to understand the depth and breadth of those 3 statements, we have to look to the book of Exodus. We come into chapter 4 of Genesis, not Exodus, that's later. We come into the first book, the book of Genesis, and we come into chapter 4, holding on to the knowledge gained first from Hebrews 11:3, which reads that by faith we understand that the universe was formed at God's command, so that when it is seen was not made out of what was visible. Then, to give you a crash course in the first 3 chapters of Genesis, we have the creation story. God spoke everything into being by his own free choice, and it was very good. This included the creation of Adam and Eve. Life's going pretty well in the garden, and then one day Adam and Eve together decide to take matters into their own hands. They eat the fruit, which is forbidden, and are banished from the Garden of Eden. God's response to them shows both justice and mercy. We then enter into Genesis chapter 4. Adam and Eve are getting used to life outside of the garden, and Eve becomes pregnant and gives birth to her first 2 sons. Cain, the eldest son, whose name means acquired or created, points to the hope placed on his life to be the one who crushes the serpent. And Abel, the second son, his name means breath, which points to the shortness of his life. We read on in verses 2 through 5. Now Abel kept flocks, and Cain worked the soil. In the course of time, Cain brought some of the fruits of the soil as an offering to the Lord. And Abel also brought an offering, fat portions from some of the firstborns of the flock. The Lord looked with favor on Abel and his offering, but on Cain, his offering, he did not look with favor. So Cain was very angry, and his face was downcast. This section of the story highlights our first 2 by faith statements in Hebrews 11:4. The first being, by faith, Abel brought God a better offering than Cain did. So the question many of us ask, including me, is, what made the offering better? Well, that's a good question. But the truth is, the passage doesn't tell us the answer to that question, at least not yet. Trust me, I really wanted it to. Contrary to popular opinion, Cain's offering is not accepted because it's not a blood sacrifice. The narrative suggests that both offerings in themselves are actually acceptable. They are both described as offerings and neither as a sacrifice. So the issue of one not being blood is void. In addition, the passage suggests that there's an offering of first fruits from both. So as a farmer, Cain's offering of fruit of the soil is appropriate for his occupation, just as Abel's firstborn of his flock is appropriate for his occupation as a shepherd. And although the occupations of farmer and shepherd were often at odds with each other, the text presents no specific signs of a conflict between the two. Neither offering appears to be inherently right or inherently wrong. It seems as if the writer of Genesis doesn't want us to get stuck on why one offering is better than the other, but perhaps wants us to continue to pursue the underlying truth of the story. The second by faith statement highlighted in Genesis 4:4-5 is that by faith, Abel was commended as righteous when God spoke well of his offerings. This by faith statement actually answers our previous question. What made Abel's offering better than Cain's? The answer: Abel was commended as righteous before God. Abel's character as a true worshiper of God is demonstrated with one word: righteous. With this one word, Abel is distinguished from Cain by his faith, which is reflected in a healthy and living relationship with the God who he worshiped. Cain may have had the head knowledge of what an offering to God looks like, but we see in Abel the combination of head knowledge and heart knowledge. Abel's heart is pure, while Cain's heart is hard. Moving on in Genesis 4, we read in verses 6-9. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it." Now Cain said to his brother, "Let's go out to the field." And while they were in the field, Cain attacked his brother Abel and killed him. Then the Lord said to Cain, "Where is your brother Abel?" "I don't know," he replied. "Am I my brother's keeper?" Okay, most of us know this moment. Most of us have lived this moment as either maybe a sibling or a parent, or as the person making the statement. "I don't know. Am I my brother's keeper?" And then there's that awkward moment of silence. As the sibling watching this moment, we're thinking, "Oh man, this is not going to end well." As the person making this statement, we're thinking, okay, let's be honest. We're really not thinking, we're just reacting. And it's coming out of sarcasm, disrespect, anger, rage, perhaps a hint of jealousy, and maybe even judgment towards our parent. And as the parent listening to this, we're thinking, Jesus, take the wheel, because I know my child did not just talk to me with that amount of attitude. As Genesis 4 continues, we see how God responds. The Lord said, "What have you done? Listen, your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. Now you are under a curse and driven from the ground, which opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you work the ground, it will no longer yield its crop for you. You will be a restless wanderer on the earth." Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is more than I can bear. Today you are driving me from the land, and I will be hidden from your presence. I will be a restless wanderer on the earth, and whoever finds me will surely kill me." But the Lord said to him, "Not so. Anyone who kills Cain will suffer vengeance 7 times over." And then the Lord put a mark on Cain, so that no one who found him would kill him. So Cain went out from the Lord's presence and lived in the land of Nod. God's response is the response of the most loving parent. It's equally just and merciful. In this moment, Cain repeats the sin of his parents by attempting to make himself like God. Cain wants to have what he feels God is withholding from him. In this case, a status superior to that of his brother Abel. I mean, he deserves it, right? He is the firstborn. But God confronts Cain just as he did with Adam and Eve. And just as his parents did, Cain displays a futile effort towards self-justification, and then he adds to that a blatant lie. The penalties displayed to Cain also mirror that of Adam and Eve: alienation from the earth, expulsion from the presence of God, and further estrangement, violence, and fear among men. Finally, just as the first couple is not left hopeless, but is clothed by God, Cain also receives the assurance of God's protection and a visible mark of God's grace. Now, I want to take some time now and go back to verses 6 and 7, which reads, "Then the Lord said to Cain, 'Why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? But if you do not do what is right, sin is crouching at your door. It desires to have you, but you must rule over it.'" Our God, the loving parent, is pleading with Cain. He reminds him that he still has the chance to do the right thing, make the right choice, and be accepted and righteous in the eyes of God. The Lord warns Cain, sin is crouching at your door. God knows the desires of Cain's heart, but he reminded Cain that he still had a choice. He could rule over his desires, or his desires could rule over him. This past week, when I was reading all of the commentaries and preparing for this sermon, there was a point when I went into Pastor Andy's office and asked a simple question. Do you think that Cain could have possibly changed course at some point and decided to walk by faith? In true Pastor Andy form, he didn't actually answer the question, but instead he responded with a question that I hear often. What do the scriptures tell us? And I paused. They don't tell us. But you know what? I'm going to hold on to hope. And that's just what I'm going to do. I'm going to hope for the Cains of the world. I'm going to hope for the Cains in our community. I'm going to hope for the Cains in our church. And I'm going to hope for the Cain inside of me. It's not naive to hope, it's biblical. Now, faith is confidence in what we hope for and assurance about what we do not see. So what if we take time today and we write the ending in Cain's story? Maybe it would go something like this. Years have passed by, and Cain is now an old man, and he's traveling west. One day, he finds himself in a place that seems kind of familiar. Standing in the exact place that he had that conversation with God so many years ago. He thinks to himself for a second, what would my life look like if I would have just listened? He feels shame and anger. But then suddenly his heart is overwhelmed when he remembers the words that God spoke to him. Cain, why are you angry? Why is your face downcast? If you do what is right, will you not be accepted? Cain falls to his knees and cries out, "Oh Lord, forgive me. I chose the wrong path, but now I choose you." God gave Cain multiple opportunities to rewrite his story, possibly more opportunities than we even know. You might be thinking to yourself, well, sure, If God literally spoke to me and gave me a heads up about sin right in front of me, I'd probably listen. Cain had it easy. He could talk to God directly. But the truth is, we can talk to God directly as well. We can talk to God through our times of prayer and silent meditation, and God talks back. He speaks through the movement of the Holy Spirit. He speaks through our Christian community, and God is always speaking in His Word. What if you had the chance to rewrite your story? What would it look like? Remember, the goal isn't perfection. Abel wasn't perfect. Literally, no one was except for Jesus. The goal is obedience. We are called to live our lives by faith. Perhaps this morning, God is calling you to rewrite a part of your story. Maybe there's an area of your life that you need to give to God and stop trying to control yourself. Maybe you need to fall to your knees and ask God for forgiveness. Maybe you need to release something that you've released before, but you chose to pick it up again. Are you able to imagine your story beautifully rewritten by God? Our God makes beauty from ashes. He raises the dead to life, and He makes a hard heart strangely warm. Maybe you are saying to yourself, I don't know this kind of hope that you're talking about, and I've never lived by faith. Not really. If that's you today, I encourage you to talk with Pastor Andy or myself or a trusted friend and pray and ask, who is this Jesus that I am called to follow by faith? Wherever you find yourself, know that God is with you, and perhaps He's asking you a simple question. Are you able? Are you able to hope for a new tomorrow? Are you able to live by faith? Are you able to follow me? As the band comes forward to prepare for this song, I encourage you to listen to the words. I remember in high school once, I went to one of those lovely things that happens on Halloween where you get to see the different ways that eternity may end up. And though many people have experienced that and taken away negative parts of it, which I understand, I still hold on to that last room. Walking in, seeing Jesus with His arms stretched open and Him hugging me and saying, welcome home. We don't have to wait for heaven for that moment. God is calling us to run to Him, and He is waiting with His arms wide open.